leadership literature is filled with fluffy, superficial content that lacks substance and scientific rigor. Science of leadership research refers to common theoretical, methodological, and interpretation errors that compromise the integrity, reliability, and applicability of leadership research findings. In my last video, I introduced sin number 1, conflating behavior with perception. Today, I'll introduce sin number 2, circular reasoning. Circular reasoning, or tautology, is a logical fallacy where an argument's conclusion is among its premises, often subtly reworded. This is particularly troubling in leadership research, where it can significantly model our understanding of what effective leadership is. Specifically, this issue becomes pronounced in the discussion of social justice leadership, where this leadership style is often defined by its commitment to equity. And then, in a circular fashion, equity is defined through its alignment with social justice principles. This creates a loop. Social justice leadership is good because it promotes equity, and equity is desirable because it is a principle of social justice. Without independent criteria for what constitutes equity or social justice, outside this self-referential definition, it becomes challenging to objectively analyze the effectiveness of social justice leadership. This circularity obscures the ability to critically evaluate leadership outcomes or the tangible impact of those leadership approaches on organizational or societal change. To move beyond the circular reasoning, it is important to establish external benchmarks and empirical evidence. This circularity obscures the ability to critically evaluate leadership outcomes or the tangible impact of those leadership approaches. To move beyond circular reasoning, it's important to establish external benchmarks and empirical evidence that can provide a basis for evaluating social justice leadership independently. Circular reasoning in leadership research can also be seen in defining leadership in terms of its outcomes. Good leadership is assumed to lead to positive outcomes, and positive outcomes are taken as evidence of good leadership. This loop makes it challenging to isolate the traits, behaviors, or practices that genuinely contribute to leadership success from those that may simply correlate with favorable circumstances or external actors. An organization's success may be attributed to a booming market rather than the strategic decisions or leadership qualities of its executives. A school or university's success may be attributed to students' learning habits and family support systems before they even attend the school or university. However, when positive organizational outcomes are observed, they are often hastily accredited to the organization's leadership without acknowledging the pre-existing actors contributing to organizational performance. This oversight exemplifies the circular reasoning prevalent in evaluating leadership effectiveness. By attributing success solely to leadership, there is a risk of overlooking the complex interplay of factors that influence outcomes. To untangle this web, it's important to use multiple approaches to leadership evaluation that includes consideration of context, stakeholder input, and the external environment. Here is another example of circular reasoning in leadership research. We often hear statements like a leader who empowers and develops potential or encourages critical and strategic thinking is categorically more effective than others. This statement implies that those particular behaviors are not only desirable, but inherently lead to positive outcomes for the organization or team. However, this presupposition fails to account for the complexity of leadership effectiveness, which can depend on a multitude of contextual factors, such as organizational culture, team dynamics, discretion given by the board, and external pressure. By accepting such statements at face value, research runs the risk of conflating descriptive characteristics, what leaders do, with prescriptive outcomes, what happens as a result, without adequately investigating their underlying causality. When you conduct a leadership research study, you use surveys or interviews to evaluate employees' perceptions of leaders' effectiveness based on their leaders' ability to motivate and inspire others. Here is an example of a survey question. On a scale from 1 to 5, how much do you think your leaders' inspirational behaviors contribute to the success of your projects? Do you see a problem here? This survey question engages in circular reasoning because the survey question assumes that the leader's inspirational behaviors are a contributing factor to project success, overlooking other possible influences. Let me give you an example of an interview question used in qualitative study. Here is an interview question. Can you describe how your leader's motivational behaviors have led to improved team outcomes? This survey question assumes a direct causality between leaders' motivational behaviors and team outcomes, leading to your interviewees looking for examples that fit this narrative. One more example. To study social justice leadership in education, your interview question is, can you provide examples of how your leaders' focus on justice has improved the team morale and marginalized students' achievement? This interview question presupposes that a leader's focus on justice directly correlates with and is a primary cause of improvement in team morale and academic achievement of marginalized students. It implicitly assumes that the leader's behavior of prioritizing justice inherently leads to positive outcomes in those areas without considering the complexities and multitude of factors that can influence morale and student achievement. This type of interview questions may lead your interviewees to selectively recall and highlight instances that align with this narrative, potentially overlooking other critical elements such as instruction quality, resource allocation, external support systems, and broader societal factors that also play significant roles in shaping those positive outcomes. Those examples demonstrate that if the survey questions or interview questions are framed in such a way that they equate the leader's ability to motivate and inspire with a high team performance, you will get the responses that reflect the circular reasoning, thereby proving your initial assumptions. But what if the team's success was largely due to external factors like policy changes and market conditions, rather than leadership per se? Without exploring those factors, the research with circular reasoning inherently assumed that good leadership behaviors automatically result in good outcomes, overlooking potential discrepancies between leadership behaviors and organizational outcomes. Moreover, this kind of circular reasoning narrows the scope of leadership research to a self-fulfilling prophecy, where only the positive correlations between specific leadership behaviors and outcomes are examined and validated. This leads to a significant oversight, the possibility that leadership effectiveness varies according to context. A leader's effectiveness in a startup environment might hinge on their ability to be flexible and innovative, whereas in a well-established organization, success may depend more on maintaining stability and incrementally improving processes. Similarly, a school principal in a turnaround school may prioritize rapid improvements in academic achievement, focusing on restructuring efforts, motivating and inspiring teachers, and improving instructional quality. Whereas a school principal in a consistently high-performing school may need to focus more on sustaining high levels of achievement, creating an environment of continuous improvement, and enhancing advanced educational programs. By failing to differentiate those contexts, research on leadership can unwittingly perpetuate a simplistic and potentially misleading narrative about what good leadership looks like. As you can see, circular reasoning means that an argument's conclusion is among its premises, often subtly reworded. It's rampant in leadership research. It manifests when leadership qualities are both defined by and accredited for their outcomes without clear independent validation. This creates a loop where the good leads to the good, obscuring our understanding of leadership and its impact. To redeem this sense of leadership research, researchers in the field of leadership need to constantly question, critique, and refine our reasoning and research methods to disentangle leadership qualities from their outcomes. By acknowledging and addressing the pitfalls of circular reasoning, we can pave the way for more robust, insightful leadership research that truly advance our understanding of what it means to lead effectively.